What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy Dame D, and today we are going to be discussing the wow, I don't forget his name just that quick. Today we're going to be discussing
Follow
Carmelo Anthony
Marlon
that stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf. Sorry about that. I have
Metcalf.
a few people that's going to discuss this panel, so I'll allow you guys to introduce yourself to the show, and you can go on ahead, DJ.
So Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player?
No, he's not the basketball player, but go introduce yourself to the show.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do
I'm
sound like
DJ
it's
Shawnee. Right. DJ Shawnee D. I'm with the What Up Show. What up, dude?
this is Joseph Knowles on the What Up Dope Show. How you doing?
There we go.
Your
There we
intro is
go.
boring.
But yeah,
Your intro
and
is
first
boring,
and
Joseph.
foremost, a lot of people think that it's the. I actually thought it was the basketball player Carmelo Anthony. No, it's
Yeah.
not. That's his name. The young man who did the
Okay.
stabbing, his name is Carmelo Anthony with a K.
Okay. Okay. Got
Okay,
you.
so we're just gonna finish up from earlier. We may or may have a few people that may come in and out of the show. I put the link out on YouTube. So you know what? I may even go live and let people know that we're live. I may go live on YouTube real quick while we're doing this, let people know that we're live. They can come in. But yeah, we're just this is just a follow-up from the show that we just finished up doing. You had a situation where you had a young man Carmelo Anthony, who was in an altercation with Austin Metcalf, and the young man ended up losing his life in the situation. You had a situation where the Austin Metcalf guy had asked Carmelo Anthony to leave out of from up under the tent where they were at in a track meet. Carmelo Anthony did not want to leave. Austin Metcalf tried, from what we're hearing, put his hands on and I don't want to get the names mixed up. He ended up trying to move him out of the area that he asked him to leave from. So that's where the situation started. You had Carmelo Anthony went in his book bag and pulled out a knife and stabbed and killed Austin Metcalf. So I'll go on ahead and let you elaborate a little bit more on that, Joseph, and finish off where we were. So I'm getting ready
So
to go live real quick. So you go on ahead and elaborate on that.
so I'm watching because I want to make sure I get the facts correct.
Right.
So what they trying to say is that it was at a track meeting, but I don't think they both went to the same school. So
Okay. Yeah.
apparently Anthony was under the tent, under that team tent. He wasn't supposed to be there. So they asked him to move. And the black kid said, "Hey, you're not gonna move me. It was raining, so that's why you went in the tent. But you're not gonna move
Oh,
me. And if you try to move me or you try to do anything, I got something for you." So I guess a voice, which is Austin, still try to confront him. He attempted to try to move him, and Anthony pulled out his knife and stabbed him.
mm.
And Anthony said that I was defending myself.
Right.
It was self-defense.
So do you not believe him?
They say he reached in his bag. So here's the thing: if you are in danger and let's just say you're going at it right now, you're tussling or whatever. If you went into your bag to grab a weapon, how is that? How is that self-defense?
Because my weapon is in my bag and I feel threatened. So I
So,
go in my bag to get my weapon because I feel threatened.
well, there's two things what the kid did wrong. First and foremost, he went and grabbed a weapon at a school ground, which is against the law. So he already broke one law.
Hmm.
Secondly, these are kids having a simple dispute. One kid chose to take grab him, which he broke, which he did commit a crime, or it was wrong. But I'm asking you a question. How is me grabbing you and maybe putting my hands on you is justifiable to get stabbed? And tell me
You better believe.
how
Yeah.
is that proportional force?
Well, first of all, it's breaking the law. It's battery. So you can't
Battery,
touch me. You cannot touch me without my permission.
but
And if I feel threatened, And that's the problem, is because the vast difference between what you have to do to make someone feel threatened is vast. So, but for whatever reason, this boy felt threatened and somebody had their hand on him. So I don't understand why you don't understand that you don't get to put your hands on me.
Yeah,
You
but
can,
we
you're not security,
But
you're
but
not the
but
police.
but do you think it should have? Do you think that situation should have resulted in someone losing their life?
I think that if you put your hand on anyone, you deserve what they give you.
Okay.
no,
They
no,
do. And now,
mm-mm,
now let me say this. I
no.
think it was wrong on both sides.
Yeah, it
You
was
know what I
definitely wrong
mean?
both sides. Yeah,
I think the adults failed both of them. I really do.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with
See,
Because
that
and
100%.
and not to cut you off, I want you to keep that on mind. Joseph hit it on the show well. It starts the adults fail everybody. Because at the end of the day, I don't think there was no conflict resolution with Carmelo Anthony. But go ahead, Lashawn.
But nobody jumped in even, to say, hey, like if you under 10, I'm sure there were other people there, especially if it was raining. So why didn't anybody intervene? I think they probably didn't intervene because they just thought it was a squabble between two children. But you don't ever know what mental state a person is in, a child is in. Social media adds a lot because there's a lot of violence. You got video games that's so really violent. So to me, we shouldn't be able to question um how if he felt threatened or not.
Well,
Well,
All we do know is a white boy had his hands on him, forcefully trying to remove him. And to me, just to me, it's unfortunate. I hate that a young man lost his life. I really do.
all right,
But if this should be an example for anybody, it should be an example to don't put your hands on people.
all right.
no. So yes, I agree with that. What you're saying, don't put your hands on people, but we also got to teach. We also cannot take it to 100
I gotta go.
because
Yeah. Move. Yeah.
so what Anthony did was take from 0 to 10. He took a situation from like maybe a 3, and he took it, and his response was a 10. That's not how it works in real life.
But you're also talking about a child who has not experienced a lot of real life.
But we also talking to two kids who are 3.7 GPA students, which they are very intelligent.
Mm.
So they're not stupid kids. These not IEP kids or autism kids. These are kids who has promising futures. They both are educated. They both are very smart kids. So they
Mhm.
do know right and wrong. So they do have a sense of awareness. They do have a sense of understanding. And Anthony, has the higher grade point for what I'm seeing, he should know better. You
Well,
don't get to kill somebody because they put their hands on you.
right. Well, I
Well,
want to
I ain't
ask you.
talking about.
I
Yeah.
want to ask you this question, Lashawn. Why do you think Carmelo Anthony, in the first place, had a knife in his backpack at a high school track meet?
I would say that there is probably a natural fear of just white people, period. You know what I mean? Just, from what we see on social media. I'm sorry, my dogs are, I'm just getting home from work, so they ready to play. I'm sorry.
No, I get
But
it.
I do think that, how can we call them children or teens or whatever, underage, not adults? How can we call them that and then blame them for making maybe the wrong decision or a rash decision?
No,
It, when has your GPA ever mattered in your day-to-day interactions with other people? For
what
real.
I was just trying to explain is that these are not kids that have autism. These not kids who doesn't understand yesterday and today or right and wrong. These are kids that has a brain. So you don't have to be an adult to only make good decisions when you're an adult. You practice that as children. So right and wrong is something that we teach our kids from day one.
Hmm.
You don't. Okay, we get it. They are kids, but they
Right.
also
So
know
what we
right and
say,
wrong. They
yeah,
know
it
right
can
and
be,
wrong. It's
It is
still,
kids. They're kids. You can't say they kids, but they made, the worst decision ever. They're kids.
yeah,
I
but murder,
So
but
you
killing
don't you don't
somebody
think you
is
don't think that
very
was the you
extreme.
don't think that was the situation that they were kids and they both made two stupid decisions, LaShawn?
My big question would be, why did he have a knife in the first place?
Right.
And why nobody knew? Who bought
Well,
it? Where did it come from?
you don't have to. You don't need to be an adult to buy a knife.
No, but I would want to know, like, what was his purpose for having the knife in the first place?
Yeah, that's
There's
that's
probably
that's what I want to know. Why did he
To
feel
me, it's
like
no difference. It's no different than a scared police officer shooting a black man.
No,
It's
there's a
no
difference.
difference. Maybe he was scared.
No,
Maybe he
there's
was
no,
afraid.
no, no, no. There's a difference.
Okay.
One is held to a higher standard. One is trained. One is licensed. The other child is developing. Two different people.
But I don't care what kind of training you get, scared is scared. And if you're
No.
gonna be scared, if listen, you could have kung fu training.
Hmm.
Okay, you could be kung fu panda in this motherfucker. But if five men approach you trying to steal from you, you're going to be scared and you're going to use whatever tactic you have to get yourself out that situation. We can't dictate what a person does to what we can dictate because that's the law, but how can we say he's a kid and then be mad because he had a 3.2 GPA? I know a lot of
No,
people that
that's
are.
not it.
I know, no. I know a lot of people that are book smart that don't have no common
No,
sense.
no, no. The whole point of me bringing up the grade point average was letting you know that these are not kids that just duh, duh, duh. They're not those
right?
type of
They don't know what
kids.
the fuck
These,
they
But you
doing.
don't have to
yeah,
be.
these are kids that they do understand right or wrong and they know how to comprehend. That's all the point of me bringing it up.
I
But I
get it.
will,
I
but
get
I
it.
will say this: you made a point by saying that these are kids. I'm
Right.
sorry, we were all kids as well, and we didn't kill nobody.
Well, but I don't know. Ain't nobody ever grabbed me and made me feel scared, and I had a knife on me.
We all have situations where there is bullying some at some form in school. We all had situations where we had to fight, and then we all had situations where we had to practice conflict resolution at some point in our lives. And now one of us always not neither one of us, at least I don't think so. Neither one of us ever thought about grabbing a knife or grabbing a weapon or doing anything to try to take a person's life.
Well,
Right.
speak for
Well, I,
yourself.
I I
No,
agree with you,
say speak for
Joseph, on
yourself.
everything you just said. But do you think that Austin Metcalf could have had some conflict resolution by
From the
actually,
start?
and I'll kind of agree with what LaShawn was saying, should this be a lesson learned? Because do you think that a lot of this could have been avoided if he would not have put his hands on Carmelo Anthony?
Of course, that would never happen if he didn't put his hands on them, but that don't mean that it would never happen with Anthony. He probably would have did it with someone
All right.
else.
Okay.
But you know what? The thing about it is, in the law, there is a clause, and forgive me because I don't know, but you also have a responsibility when in conflict to not escalate and to not put yourself in harm's way. So it's one thing to say, because we have to start at the beginning of the story. Once upon a time, there was a white young man that put his hands on a black boy.
Right.
To me, you need to teach your children not to put their hands on people because you never know how that person is going to react. It's the same if you hit a person, it's the same if you steal from a person. You never
Hmm.
know how a person is going to react. So I hope he doesn't get convicted because it doesn't sound like he's a bad kid. It just sounds like he made a rash decision based off of what somebody was presenting him.
See,
Don't put
and
your
I,
hand.
and I was just
I'm,
getting ready to say that the court of law may look at it differently, but one thing that I spoke about earlier when we were live on YouTube, the law in Texas is they will not um, put a juvenile under the
On a
death
death row.
penalty, or they will not charge a juvenile with life in prison without the possibility of parole. So
I,
one day, no matter what he gets, he will see the day of light one day.
I'm,
Well,
I'm,
usually that is based off of the crime itself. Is it first degree, second degree, third degree, homicide, vehicular? It's a lot of different stages in murder.
yeah, it
And so
is.
he probably won't get first degree. So he can
Right.
only get the death penalty in first degree. It would probably be second degree or third degree.
Right.
But the thing about it is um he acted in a way to protect himself.
No,
And
he
Okay.
so
didn't. He did
you
not
don't
act
get
in a
the
way to
two.
protect himself. He didn't act in a way to protect himself. He acted
How
in a
can you say
way.
that? How you know that? How you know?
Well,
Right.
Why you don't
I
think
want
he
to I
He
want
can
to
protected himself?
protect
welcome
himself.
BJ3 to the
Well,
show.
how
Go
you
ahead,
doing,
Yeah,
BJ3.
BJ?
BJ.
What up? What up? What up? What up?
Uh,
I'm just saying
Right.
you're
You
speaking like
can
it's facts. You know what I'm saying? Like to him, he was protecting himself.
correct.
I don't get to determine. You don't get to determine what you think is fair. The law is very clear. There's such thing as proportional force. You don't get to use a knife into a fist or a grab battle. You have to give proportional force.
What
So if my
size?
man,
What size
Well,
was the
no.
cat that grabbed him?
Mhm.
huh? They both are athletic students.
I get it, but if one could be 5'9" athletic and one could be 6'4",
Correct.
300
No,
pounds athletic.
the height doesn't change the situation. They both are in the same. They both are the same category. They both are students, athletes.
Well, I
It
do
doesn't
want to
make sense.
say this. Um, the what was the white boy name? He was he was a middle
Metcalf.
linebacker, so he was a pretty decent size. I don't know
That
the
don't
That's
build
why
that
he
and the
don't
grabbed
that
him.
size
don't
of
that
the
don't
black guy.
that don't change the situation.
A
That
hundred
will
percent it does. A
I
hundred
mean,
no
percent
no.
it does.
he could have been
Yes,
like
it
he
does.
feared for
Yes,
his
it does.
life, at
You
that
know
point.
why?
Yes,
No
yes,
no
a
no.
hundred percent,
That will
a
only
hundred
work.
percent.
That defense will only work if he was 19 years old, 17 years old, and a linebacker, and the other person that killed him was 80-year-old. That
What
So
defense
tell us
would
why
it
you
would
say
have to
that?
be it would have to be a uh, uh,
Vulnerability. I got you.
vulnerability there. So they had to be like an 80-year-old versus a 30-year-old, and
It don't have to
uh,
be
old and
that's not
fragile.
true.
Yes, it was. It would definitely go there in the
No,
court of law.
it don't.
Two high
And
school students the same age, both athletic, that would not be a good defense.
so if you come up to me to rob me and we the same age, same height, same whatever, and you come to rob me, let's just say you put your hands on me like give me all your money and you got a knife to my neck. I can't use my gun and shoot you.
Yeah, you
You
can.
can.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's saying there was
but
no weapon, so the other
one
person didn't have like a weapon.
one
I,
have
I
a
Okay.
I understand
weapon,
what you're saying.
one
I
have a
understand.
weapon, and the other one didn't. That's not
Right,
proportional force. Sorry.
right.
But I don't know that though. I don't know that. I don't know what he got on him.
Well, he didn't see it, nor
Okay, so look,
nobody.
look. He was in the tent with the other guy's team. So
Yeah,
one guy grab you, snatch you up. It's 5, 10,
It's
15. I
on.
don't know how many other people standing right there on the bench behind him. So you're gonna wait to get jumped, or I'm not.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
everything I'm saying is really devil's advocate. But I mean, the circumstances you look up, it's a whole bunch of them standing up, saying stuff to you, and one snatch you up and grab you. I mean,
Nowhere. That's not enough to grab a knife.
You crazy
okay,
as
that's
fuck. I will
you
stab
damn right. Because what
anybody
you
in
gonna?
the
Because
face.
once they getting the hitting on you, you might not get a
I
But
chance to
that's
pull no
promise.
but
knife
we're
out.
talking
See,
hypothetically. It was only
and see,
one.
and
It was a
you
one. It was a one-on-one situation. It was one kid versus another kid. The other kid was not involved. It was one kid versus the other.
You
One
say that
kid.
though.
Well, that's
You
what it
don't think the
says
other
in
kid
the
was
police
behind
report.
him?
But that don't matter. The
That
what
don't matter.
the action of the threat what matters. One kid had a weapon. The other one didn't.
Right. And now
Okay.
that's the basics.
He
Now
fucked
let's
up.
keep going. Now let's keep
He
going.
fucked up.
see,
Right. He fucked up and should have
and
brought
this
a
is
weapon.
why it's the country is at a racial split with this story. You know what I
I ain't
mean?
even racial with it. I ain't even
No,
Yeah.
racial
that's
with it.
This
that's
is
not
right
racial.
and
That
wrong.
part wasn't racial yet. I'm
Yeah, it's
telling
right.
No, not that part. I'm just saying just the whole situation.
you
Because
will have a
most
hard
black
time
people try to look for a situation where where he was what's the word that I'm looking for, where he had a reason to actually, well, he was justified at stabbing Austin
because
Metcalf.
because black people like me we have trauma, and we cannot separate trauma from reality.
So, okay, so when my mama told me, hey, when the biggest kid in the crowd is fucking with you, you pick up any fucking thing you can find and knock them the fuck out. She shouldn't have told me that.
My mom, my great grandma, my great grandfather used to tell me, if you have a toothache, drink alcohol. Just because you've been taught some things from your parents, I mean, it's right.
But alcohol do dull the pain. He ain't lying.
Yeah.
You
But
know
if,
what I'm
if
talking about.
but if I gave my son alcohol right now
Yeah, I was
because
gonna
of toothache,
say
I'm
But
going
you
you
to
was
do.
faint.
8 years old,
Well, you
but
do give
ain't
your
no
son
8 year old.
alcohol. You give your son alcohol when you give him Tylenol.
And
So,
Benadryl.
If I
And
exactly.
I kind of
if
stuff.
I gave my son alcohol for his toothache, I will lose custody of my son and I'd be in jail.
Well, you
Not if
do.
you gave him Benadryl
We do.
or the NyQuil to help him go to
Alcohol
sleep.
with Benadryl will give me a life sentence in prison.
Nah, I'm
Yeah.
just
He just
saying.
talking.
Listen, the thing about it is I feel terrible about this situation. I feel
Right.
terrible for both sides.
I
It was
agree.
awful, but we are
Horrible.
talking about somebody who
Yeah, that's
started
horrible.
the fight. The black boy did not start the physical altercation. He did not start that. So if you put him out, and I'm sick of these. I don't know what happened because, like I said, I gave
Yeah,
up
we're
social
gonna.
media for Lent.
Yeah,
But what I can say is, white people do have a tendency to think that they can control and security the area.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so they think that they can move you out of places. You don't know what this black boy has been through in his mind. You don't
that's
know where
that
his
is
mind
his
was.
trauma. Your
It
trauma.
doesn't-
You don't get to use your trauma as an excuse to make a bad decision. I'm sorry. I disagree with that.
Well, what I'm saying is,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what he
You're
had
right.
been through to react to being touched
That's
like
his
that.
problem. That is
That
his
No,
gotta be
problem
that's
because
not.
again.
It is
that
battery. You can't touch me and
Battery.
you can't
Yes,
touch.
you want to use battery for kids. These are two kids that should have had scrap it out. If
You can't
at the
call that.
very
You can't
least,
call that.
they should have fight.
nah,
If
that,
you
that it, I disagree.
you
See,
fight it
and,
out.
and I agree to disagree on that. That's what I said in the beginning, but you do have to agree with LaShawn and BJ3 is saying. You can't go around putting your hands, no matter if they're kids or not, because look at the situation. It
Who you think
resulted
you
into
are? Who
somebody.
you think
It
you are?
Right,
resulted into a
Right.
young man losing his life.
I don't.
right.
I First and
You got that
foremost,
right.
we as people, and I'm just saying this wholeheartedly. And I'm a guy who made the same mistake in my past, put my hands on someone. I had to pay the price for that
Right.
Yeah.
because I didn't have
So
sense to
yeah,
know how to
right.
self-control. Wasn't really taught self-control. But I'm gonna say this though. We don't get to take it how far we want to take it because somebody violated us. If you've been violated in your life, you can't just do what you want because you've been violated. Okay, I've been violated by a man down the street. I don't get to blast his head off because he violated me. You have to be able to learn how to problem solve. And all problem solving do not have to result into
Crazy.
somebody getting
That's,
killed.
that's presumptuous. Let me say this. I go to tactical training. So with all of my guns, I have a expert who takes me outside and teaches me how to shoot, right? So, one day when I first started, he had um targets in different areas, like 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever. And so he was like, okay, shoot at that 30 feet. And then he got closer and closer. He said, when they right here, it's go time. You hit
Mm-hmm.
if they right here, you got time to make a decision. But if
Yep.
they here, it's go time.
It's
Like
too late. Yeah,
it's
you're on
go
the way
time.
too late. Yeah, another step is
Yeah.
too late.
So
I
you
got
you
the
get
same
too close
classes.
to
I'm
me.
with
You
you.
get too close to me, I'm taking you out.
Yep.
So,
That's what
so
it is.
I'm confused. I mean, I get that's what you're saying, but I'm confused. Now, I gotta ask a question. Do he have a weapon?
To me, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
If yes, it does. So if somebody is rushing me and I'm saying stop or I'll shoot. My job is to give a warning. This is what the law says.
Oh,
My
that's what
job.
law says?
This is what the law say, Joe.
I know the
If
lawyers. I have a CPO. I definitely
have to
know.
do I have to do whatever I can to de-escalate the situation. But if I cannot do that, then guess what? I have a right to protect myself. And it is not for me to determine if this guy got a gun or if he got this or is he mentally
Yes, it
stable.
is. It
No, it
is.
isn't.
It is your
So
responsibility. Because here's the thing: in your head, this is what you're saying. But can
mhm,
you? How you gonna convince a jury of line with that logic?
easy
It's
because
not
I
easy. It's
felt
not
threat.
easy to do,
Well,
to
I ain't
get a
gonna say
jury nine.
easy.
That's
I'm
not
not gonna
easy.
say easy. Listen, I'm not gonna say easy. This is why I got insurance for a lawyer if I ever get in that situation. But what I can say is my job then is to protect myself. And if you grab me and I am triggered and I feel threatened, I'm taking you the fuck out with whatever I could pick up.
See,
That's
I
and
it.
I'm
mean,
listening to both sides. I'm trying to be biased, and when I originally heard the story,
Non-bite, non-bite.
I had a lot of sympathy for the Austin Metcalf and the family, but but like I said, you want to ask yourself this question: does anyone have the right to be able to put their hands on you, to the point where you take it as it's a life and
It's
life
a threat. It's a
and
threat.
yeah, like it's a life and life or death situation though. But was it a lot? Because this is listen, this is what the prosecutor and is going to be trying to say to the jury. This was not a life and
life
threat,
and death,
life
death
and
situation.
death situation. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? So you got to ask yourself, LaShawn and BJ3. I understand protect yourself, but he's going to be
I'm
in
for
front
that
of
too.
12 possibly white motherfuckers that's
Nah.
going to be judging him. You know what I mean? So, and I
He's in
apologize.
Fresco,
Sorry for me saying that.
Fresco,
He's going to
Texas.
be in front of probably 12 white jurors that's going to be judging him. So
Hispanic.
yeah,
Fresco's pretty mixed
so
now.
you got to ask yourself that question. Was it?
But the thing
We
about it
understand
is,
protecting yourself, but was it to the point where he had to take it to that level?
my thing is, you don't get to pick the
Extreme.
level. You don't
Okay,
get
go
to
ahead.
pick my level. You don't get
Right,
to pick my level on how if I feel threatened or not. You don't get to
Yes,
right.
you
do
do. No, no,
that.
you. I don't get to
No,
pick that, but
you
you
don't.
get to pick that. No, no,
I,
you do.
and guess what? And I did what I thought was necessary.
But you're gonna have to
So,
be able to defend that too.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say,
I
yeah,
well,
can.
you gotta you have to pick a
not a
good ass
problem.
lawyer too.
Not a problem. I will. I will. He got $300,000. He gonna have a good life.
$300,000.
So
If
he
that
had a gun.
case,
Did he have a gun GoFundMe to raise money for a lawyer?
yeah, I think
That-
it's like you got 300,000 right there and there. But
Okay, yeah, because he
He
why
gonna
would
get
definitely
his
you,
gonna need
lawyer.
it.
as a? But that's where the maturity comes in at, because why would you want to put yourself to that?
So listen, there's a story out of Chicago, and this is why I remembered it. So a young man and his mother go to a restaurant to get something to eat. She's ordering her food. There's
Chicago.
there's a guy behind her that is like, hurry up with your motherfucking food, just being
I
irritated.
did a show on that. That was one of my first shows.
He punched the mother, and the little boy pulled his gun out and shot dude dead. And guess what? He walked right. I mean, he went to jail, but him and his mother walked right out because he
Simple.
has a right to defend the
Yes.
law of guns. The law, I don't know about the law of knives, but I know the law of guns is, if I feel, like I'm going to
Threatened.
lose, I'm going to be beat up or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to stand my ground. I have a right to stand my ground.
Okay.
So it's
So
okay. It's okay that you guys don't agree with it. I know you don't, Joseph. It's cool. We know you don't
right.
like it for real.
No,
You
this
know
is
what?
But
Well, for the young people
I'm
or for the
joking.
young
I-
folks
I'm
that
joking.
maybe watching this, do you think that's a great opinion, or do you think that's how that situation should have been handled? DJ Shiny D and BJ3.
Go ahead, B.
All right. So it's a sad situation for both sides,
It
right?
is.
We talking about kids. We talking about kids, but then we start putting ourselves in it. Now we don't know what was going on It's gonna be more to come out. Everything we said is speculating, right?
Right.
So it is a matter of your interpretation. You don't know what's going on behind or what's going to happen next after this person then grabbed you and snatched you up. Again, you're in a tent that is another team's. Like you said, Damien, he might have just been trying to get out of the rain. Who knows? Whatever the reason he was there, but it seems like for some reason it seems like he was by himself, and the other guy had a team behind him.
Right.
So you don't know. You don't know what when they all stand up. You think he looking at it's a one-on-one because one person grabbed him and he was talking. Yeah, but what about everybody else that was behind that was in the tent or close to the tent saying get out the tent, telling him to tell him to get out the tent. You don't know what was going on, so that you don't know. To him, this could be um, a real serious situation. Once he grabbed me, because D, if you give me a chance to move first, and I can get you with a jab in the right hand, we not it's no more conversation.
So you
Let
gonna
me
get
ask you
it
a
off?
You know
You
question.
what I'm
gonna
saying?
try to get
So
it off first?
it's
You
going
better believe it.
100%, and then it ain't no more fight. It's a wrap. I'm leaving, and you laid out. If you
Right.
just
So
let me
Now I
make my
agree with
moves
you on
first,
that in boxing, but you got to think about it. When you thinking on this, the hand of the law. You know what I mean? In that situation,
so
especially a black man, pretty much that just stabbed and killed a white man. You know what I mean? So I want to
I ain't
get
even
your
trying to
opinion
get
on
into
that,
that part
DJ
of it.
Shiny
Yeah.
D. With all the stuff that goes on around. I mean, you know what I mean? You got a black man that end up killing a white young man, and they both were, like Joseph said, they both were great students, student athletes, you know what I mean? Come from both great backgrounds, nothing negative on both parts. You know what I mean? So you got to think about situations, situations like that. Was it a case like, and we talked about this earlier, that situation could have been handled, differently with conflict resolution. And I
On
understand
both
what you say,
sides,
D.
though,
D.
y'all got to say that you got to say that for both sides. You can't
No,
just
I,
say,
I agree.
Right.
and I,
I agree. We said that, because it
because
could, it could have.
why you putting your hands on this kid? Why you putting your hands on
Right.
him?
Keep your
just
motherfucking hands to yourself.
now,
And I would say that if it was
See,
black or white,
and
and I would be
I'll
saying the
let
same
Joseph,
thing.
We can
once
take
you
color
got
out of it for real. We can take color out of it for me.
Yeah,
It
okay.
really doesn't
100%.
matter.
If it
If
was a
I'm
black
looking at
so
dude, a
people,
black dude that was a middle linebacker, and he grabbed him, and was like, "You got to get up out of here." He'd be like, "Man, what you
and he
doing?
must have thought he was tough. He
Right.
must have thought he
Why you
was
snatch this? Why you grabbing, putting your hands on this dude?" It's a sad. Again, we talking about kids. One of them that lost their life. It's an extremely sad situation. So everything we talking about is just we
so
hypothetically talking. So
Right.
now we talking, and that's cool. But here's what the Texas law is. You can only use deadly force in self-defense if you reasonably believe it's necessary to prevent the imminent commission of certain violent crimes, such as aggravated kidnap, murder, sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. That's
how many
it.
people? How many people was in the tent? Why wouldn't he
No,
think if it was
no.
four,
See,
two, three, four, five
eh,
of them back there
wait,
that
hold
his
on,
life could have
hold on.
ended?
Don't matter
Ain't no
about
no
that.
no. And you can't say no no to that. You can't
I,
say no no. You can't say no 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 no. You can't say
no.
that to that.
You know
It don't.
why
It,
I can say no to that? Because the statute was very clear. You have to be in the act of a body crime,
That wasn't
kidnapping,
violent.
murder.
he
No, it
just
wasn't. It
he
was
That
just
wasn't
one per.
violent.
grabbed him.
Hold on.
Okay,
It was
sorry.
one person that grabbed him. It wasn't every. Just because everybody
And he was
looking
the only
don't
one that
mean.
got stabbed.
Hold on.
He didn't stab everybody. He stabbed the
He,
nigga that grabbed him.
uh, but that person did not. That person did not commit kidnapping. He didn't commit murder. He wasn't sexually assaulting
And
him. He
Ain't that
intentional
wasn't
right?
committing
bodily
a
harm.
robbery, and he was not committed of committing an aggravated robbery. That's the only reason why. Only reason you could use deadly force in Texas, and none of those
Commitment.
things apply.
Well,
He
first of
was.
all,
You don't know if when he grabbed him, he intended to do
right,
seriously body
commit him,
harm. You
get him off
can
you.
defend yourself.
Unfortunately, that's not part of deadly force in Texas.
Well, it said I thought what you just read, it
Yeah.
said any crime such as.
Yeah.
Which doesn't
Right.
mean
certain
Right.
intimate commission of certain violent crimes, such
Right.
as aggravated kidnapping. That wasn't
Uh-huh.
it.
You grabbing
Murder.
somebody against their will, that's
That's
kidnapping.
that is not kidnapping. No,
What?
it's not. No, it's not.
You grabbing somebody, that's we just want to
No.
start. Keep going down the list.
So if I grab my wife right now, I'm kidnapping her.
If you
yes.
grab your wife and you don't allow her to leave the room, yes, man,
That
that's
is
No,
kidnapping.
that's not kidnapping.
It
And it
is.
says, hold on,
100%.
hold on, hold on, hold on. It says aggravated, which means there's a different level to that kidnapping.
That means it's a weapon.
No,
No,
it
no,
don't
no,
mean it's
no.
a weapon. It
There's a
means it
different
could be
level.
seriously bodily harm behind that grabbing. That's what it sounds like.
See, and this is why I haven't been saying that. You know, this may need to be moved out of a different
It
city.
won't.
You know what I
It
mean?
won't. It
Because
won't. It won't go nowhere.
it's definitely gonna be some racial divide, you know, amongst the two. You know, because I've been sitting here listening to both
So,
sides. You know, and both sides make sense. You know, you know, and it's not. It's a clear cut act of what happened. You know, but it's going to be a lot that's going to come out that, you know, because right now we're in the beginning stages of this situation. We don't know
but
what was actually said. We're probably going to hear from some of the students that
I
was
don't
in there
care if
in the
this.
tent. You know what I mean? And I understand where you're
I
coming
don't
from,
care
Joseph.
what
You're
he
looking
said.
up under, you know, you're coming
It matters.
from the you're looking at it from the eye of the law. You know what I mean? And the rules, you know,
That
and that's how
and
that go.
guess
Because
what?
you know,
How
at the
you
end of the day, because that's how I look at it, you know, and how I looked at it in the beginning, you know, I'm like,
and
wow,
that's what
you know,
matter.
this boy,
That's what
this
matter.
was a clear
How
cut
you
murder.
It matters.
feel.
It matters what was said. If he said, "Man, if you don't get out of this tent, I'm gonna fuck you up,"
That don't
I'm out.
matter. That
It
don't matter.
matters. Now he's
Hold
made a
on.
threat. That's a
No,
threat.
no, it's not.
And
No,
then
it's
he
not.
put his hands on you. Man, you
Of the,
crazy.
That ain't a threat,
the
Joseph.
a reasonable belief of danger must be use of
That
force,
wasn't
including.
reasonable.
Hold
That
on.
wasn't a reasonable.
See, you going by how you feel.
No,
You
I'm
got
going
you
by
got
what
to
you
convince.
said.
You got to convince.
That's the only
Convince.
thing that matters. That's the only thing
What
that matters.
the only thing that matters is what the law said. How you feel don't matter. And the
How I
use
felt
of
at that
force,
moment matters. How I
you
felt,
know
if
it.
I felt threatened, it doesn't
No,
matter.
I felt
it,
threatened.
It
how
matters.
you feel when I get you off of jail. The use of force has to include deadly force. Must be justified by a reasonable belief that is
Reasonable.
immediately reasonable belief that is immediately necessary to protect yourself from another person from the
Correct.
use or attempted use of deadly force. And
Correct.
that boy, that what Austin did was not an attempt to use deadly force. He
How you
grabbed
know
him.
that?
I
Now,
don't
now,
Big,
know.
now, I want to
I
ask you.
can
I want to
find
ask you
myself.
two this question, DJ Shiny
Oh,
D and BJ3. You know, if you were in a gas station and you were in line and somebody grabbed you and moved you and was like, "Look, let me get in front of you.
It's
I,
it's it's
I'm gonna
a
go
it's
next."
a whole
Do you
situation.
think?
It's a
Do you
situation.
think that's enough to use deadly force? You know, because that's pretty
I
much
don't
what
think
type of
that.
situation that was.
I
yes.
don't think that. First of all, I'm a different breed, and you gonna always have different people that are mindset like with their mindset. You know, you're gonna have people that are like, "Ain't no motherfucker taking shit from me," or "Okay, he just took this, he can't come back over here no more."
Right,
Like you always
but
gonna
the question I just asked: do you think if you were in
I'm going.
line?
I'm going back to it.
Go
I'm
ahead.
going back to it. So if I'm in line and somebody grab me, it's on like Donkey Kong right then and there. I don't give a fuck why he moving. It's on
What
right
are
there.
you
Don't
doing
touch
touching me? Why are you touching
Whoa.
me?
it.
But do you
I don't know
think
what you're about
it
to do.
So okay,
deserves
hold on.
deadly force?
Okay,
So you
okay. So
think
Yeah.
let me
I should
answer it.
wait? I should wait until they.
Right.
Cause
Now it
I'm
might
gonna be
deserve an
fair,
ass kicking,
right?
but you got to ask yourself: does it deserve a deadly
A
I'm not.
death.
force?
I'm not taking
Oh.
Let me
one punch without a
So
fight.
let me ask you a question.
let,
Damon,
let me
can I
answer.
ask you,
Let me
can I,
answer.
go ahead, go ahead, go
I
ahead. I'm
never
sorry.
got
Go
to
ahead.
answer.
Sorry.
Let me answer.
Go
So
ahead.
you asked. All right. So I'm going. I'm gonna go. I take a step back, like she didn't come back up. So you said that he grabbed him, and no, that's not considered deadly force. It don't
No, it's
matter what he
not.
said. I know. I
No, it's
heard you.
not that important.
He said it's not deadly force, and it doesn't matter
Mm-mm.
what he said, and all that, and all that. Now
Nope.
let me ask. Let me ask you. So if you hold somebody, position them exactly where you want them, and you hit them, and they fall, and they bump their head, Could they die?
You can die if I push you down.
No, that ain't. I'm just asking.
No,
Just that same scenario. He grab him. He position him where he need to, and you want
Hmm.
him. You want him to wait it shows it's happening.
it's
So
deadly.
you hit
It's
him
got
with
to be
with
deadly.
the good right hand. All you got, and he falls and he bumps his head. Is
That,
then would it be considered deadly force? So you want to wait until all that happened before you decide to defend yourself?
but that's not what happened though.
No, we
You
talking
don't know what
about
was gonna
the
happen. He
question.
he
We
didn't
I,
he didn't
I,
allow that to happen.
well, he didn't allow it to happen because that's not what happened. What happened is that one kid grabbed another kid, and the other kid
Uh-huh.
decided to take it too
And
damn far and took
so he
take
grabbed him just to give him a hug to say, "Hey, man, you shouldn't be in this area." He was grabbing him
no,
gently
he
and everything,
grabbed
very
him.
much and all that.
So he put his hands on the other kid in a way to as a threat or intimidation, whatever it was, right?
Okay,
But that's not deadly force.
I
we
hear
don't
what you're
know
But
what
hold
then
on. But
we could
I gotta
fall and bump our
saying.
head.
I forgot this because I didn't bring up this one thing. Now you saying that Carmelo Anthony wasn't supposed to be in that tent, right?
I heard it was
BJ3.
the other. I heard it was the other team's tent.
It
Right.
was.
So Texas has a law, 2024, that a person can only use stand your ground if he has a right to be present at the location.
Okay, well, guess what? The thing
He
about it
wasn't
is,
supposed to be there, which
That they didn't have
means
no
he
permit
didn't
he
that
have
wasn't
nobody could sit
running,
right there.
Joseph.
I mean, come on,
He was
no,
man.
no, no, no,
never
no.
running,
If
Joseph.
he, you cannot use stand your ground if you do not have the right to be present at that location. Bam.
But just Joseph, he was getting out of the rain. I don't think that in
You're still
itself is
out.
wait, hold on,
Okay,
hold on.
go ahead.
I
Hmm.
still don't think that in itself deserved him to be snatched up by anybody.
Or
Right,
murder.
right.
And so
Yeah.
why were they so fucking mad that a kid trying to get out the rain comes under their tent? Shut the fuck up. Stop playing. So it was already some hostility there in the first place. So I don't know what you're gonna do. You right. I could fall. You could knock me down, I could bump my head on a
I'm not
brick.
waiting to see. I'm not
I'm
waiting to
not
see.
So let
I'm
me
too
ask you a
old for that.
question. I gotta ask you a question there, right? If you bring a knife to a school ground, I feel like you're looking for trouble.
or you're
Or
trying to
maybe
defend yourself from
or
something.
maybe you'd have been bullied before and you're
You-
protecting yourself.
No, you don't. Because you know one thing that you don't do? When you bring a, first of all, you don't bring a knife or a weapon to school. And when you do decide to do that, you anticipating a fight or you looking for one. It's
Now
one or the other.
that's presumptuous again.
I
Because
Nobody
agree,
brings
man.
a
I
weapon
agree.
to school unless
say
they
this.
looking for a problem or they
No,
are trying to get into a problem.
you're super
No, I just
judgmental. First of
100%
all, I
disagree
took the bus
on
to
facts.
school. I went to private school, but I took the bus to school through the city of Chicago. I had a weapon on me since I was like eighth grade.
Mhm.
So
Right.
to me, it's just a weapon in case
That's
shit
Chicago.
happens.
That is a suburb where they at.
Okay, I went to school at
Making a
Hamilton
lot of
on the
excuses.
east
You're
side of
talking about
Detroit.
the law.
I'm not. I want you to understand is that what y'all both saying. I understand what you're saying, but it will not hold up in court because you're talking based on how you feel and based
We
on
talking about
personal. I'm telling you that you're talking on based on personal experience or based on how you feel, but that is not what the law is. The law is not written based to fluctuate based on how you feel or past trauma. The law
So
is
yes, it
wait,
very
wait, wait.
is.
clear.
Can
The
we
Not
go?
past
law,
trauma, but it is
Go
based
ahead.
on how you feel.
the law is very clear. A person can only use stand your ground if they have a right to be present.
We
I
ain't talking about
if
standing your ground.
See,
We ain't talking about standing your
that's the
ground.
and I'm gonna have
only
to agree with Joseph on that. And when I first heard this story, and which what made me want to do this story, I felt it was a heartfelt story, and I felt for the father.
Yeah.
After listening to the situation, and I understand. You have no right of putting your hands, on anyone.
I agree. I ain't
The
argue with that
most
part.
he could have done in the eyes of the law, is probably beat his ass.
Yeah,
You see
they
what I'm
could have
saying?
fought that
Without
out.
going to jail, or
Yeah,
being judged,
that
or
you say
being
that easy. You say
being
that easy, but that
prosecuted.
ain't
You know what I mean?
But
But
right.
Joseph,
when he took the
I got a
step of
question for you.
when he took that next step uh, going into that bag, because they're going to look at it like, this is what the prosecution is going to be trying to say. He was out there looking for trouble. He came with a knife in his bag.
Yes, that's
You know
exactly
what
what
I
they're gonna
mean?
say.
They're going to throw all that shit out there, even
They can
though
say
he
whatever they
probably
want.
wasn't. Even though he probably could have been bullied, like you said, BJ3. He could have probably all that shit probably could have happened. But at the end of the day, he's going to be judged more than likely by white jurors. And they're going to look at it like,
It
does
don't matter
this
if white, black, or
justify
Hispanic.
him, this white boy, justifying him trying to remove him from a tent that technically he wasn't really supposed to
He
be
wasn't
at?
supposed to be
You know
there.
what I mean?
So,
Because if
so
he's
Yeah.
there
Joseph,
with his
can I
own
ask you a
with
question?
his school, shouldn't he be with the group that he came with?
No,
So
But
they're
come
I'm
going to
on.
saying,
look at
We are
that. The
kids.
prosecution
We
is
are
going to throw up
children.
all that.
Y'all are
So at
thinking
the
about
end of
this
the
like
day,
adults.
it's going to be all about,
Can I say something?
did death warrant somebody trying to remove you from their area?
Joseph, can I ask you a question? So let's go back to Ahmaud Arbery, who the house was being built. He went in to just look at the aesthetics. Like you could see him in there on camera, like, man, this is gonna be a nice house. He'd leave 2 to 3 white men in a truck, run him down, gun him down, because he was in a place he wasn't supposed to be. And he didn't even get shot in the house. He was running, jogging.
What that don't, but that's not the same situation what happened
It
at school though.
is. It is. It's not because they're children, but it is because he happened to be in the wrong place. Let's just say the house is the tent, and he went in and looked at the house. He didn't steal
But
nothing.
the
He didn't
house of the
do nothing.
tent, based on what you're saying, is that the house that he went into belongs to the other people house.
It
Neither
wasn't
one
even
of them,
their
but
house.
neither one of them owned that home.
Right? Neither one of them owned that home. So
But
you
neither
don't
that,
one
get
of
the
them
but
owned that
right.
park. Neither
You
one of them
hold
don't
on,
get
owned
the
that park.
right.
but them kids,
They just
that was
had a
that
tent.
school. That
First
was
of
a
all, that
that
white
was a
boy took the law into his own hands. Once upon a time, the beginning of the
no.
story
The
starts.
black kid took the law into his own
No,
hands.
when you tried to forcefully remove me, you took the
Yes,
law in
yes,
your own hands.
And you
yeah.
also have to have proportional force. You
Stop
can't
with the
just
proportional force, but
because
you know that.
I grab you does not give you a right to shoot me.
And
If
guess
I
what?
think
Just
that you're
because you
bigger,
grabbed me, I
if I
didn't
think
shoot
that you're
you.
bigger and that
I
you
had
can
a
do
knife.
bodily harm, yes, I can.
You could think whatever you want. Don't make
Yes,
it
just
true.
yeah, it don't matter. But what I feel, just like you said, feelings don't have a part of the law. It 100% does. Look at
Feelings has
Trayvon.
no part of the law.
Look at Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman. Zimmerman felt
Yeah,
like he was die. He was
yeah.
gonna get killed. He felt that he was about to die. So he had to defend himself and kill a fella
And
who
you
he
do
thought
know
who
See,
he
that
felt was about to kill him.
this is
And
why
a
this
child.
case
all,
probably is
all
going to be a hard case to judge. You
this
know,
case is going to be a slam dunk. He will be convicted within 7 months.
So what you
I mean,
just
it's probably going
said,
to listen. It's probably going to be a hard case to judge, but at the end of the day,
what I'm reading,
a
is
young man lost his life.
and it's
And that's
awful.
what they're going
It's
to be
awful.
looking at. You
There's
know what I
no way
So
you
mean?
what
can
I just Googled,
justify he dying. One had a weapon, one didn't. There's absolutely no way he's not doing no jail time.
Yeah,
so it says
yeah,
what I just
and that's
read.
how I'm looking at the
What I just
situation.
read.
I
On
think
a
if it was
school
a
ground with a
situation
weapon,
where I think
there's impossible for him not to
if
go to jail.
yeah, I think if it
But
was a
you don't know if
situation where
this
the
boy
white
had
boy
to take a bath.
presented some type of weapon and then he pulled the knife out and then stabbed him, he may been able to get off of that.
I just read in Texas, a person commits murder, also known as murder, in the state. I'm just going to skip to the good part. Intentionally or knowingly causing death to another, or if the intent to cause serious bodily injury.
And
So
that's
it's
the law
not
from
just
Texas.
murder, kidnapping. Yes, it's not just murder,
Right.
kidnapping,
When
what
you
you said.
grab me and snatch
It's
me up,
bodily injury.
when you
Bodily
grab me
injury.
and snatch me up,
There
your
was
next
no
thing
body.
is to
There was
do
no bodily injury
serious
there.
bodily
Yeah,
injury.
it was my body, and he grabbed it.
There was no
Yeah.
injury though.
We don't know that though.
Intent,
We do know
intent,
that. We know there
intent
was no
to
Intent.
do
injury.
seriously bodily injury. Intent to do silence. When he
No,
grabbed him,
the
was he about
intent.
to give him a hug and a kiss? When he grabbed him, was he about to give him a hug and a kiss? What was he about to do after he grabbed him?
We don't know.
But
You want to wait
bang,
for that? Okay, I got you. I understand now. I ain't got to say nothing else. I
Yeah,
understand
see,
what you're
and that's
saying.
why I
Do you
I'm
know
done
say,
why?
talking.
Do you
and
know
it's
why
not.
I'm saying? Do you know why I'm saying this?
Go
why?
ahead, Joe.
Because you're gonna have to be able to prove what you're saying.
Well, we just proved it to you.
No. You ain't prove anything to me because you dealing with these sharp prosecutors who is going to destroy him. And you have to also believe, you have to also be able to articulate exactly why you was in danger.
That's
So
why he got
grabbing
300,000 to get a good lawyer.
$300,000
Pay that
Yeah,
is
case.
not a lot in a murder case.
yeah.
What are you talking about? First of all,
That
he
is not
ain't
a
done
lot.
getting money. He ain't done getting money. First of all,
Right. It just
and
started.
this hopefully will be a fast case. This won't
You're
be
right.
something that'll be
This is gonna be
drawn out
over.
forever.
He's going
But
to prison.
I I I pray that he does not go to jail. He does not. That he's
So,
vindicated.
what do you think? What do y'all think? Do you think they're gonna have to move the trial in a different
They're not gonna
city or
move it.
state?
No, that's not gonna happen.
They're not
Texas
gonna
is
move it.
very strict,
They're
and
not
I
gonna
will
move
tell you this: the problem is because that white boy initiated bodily contact without that boy giving him permission to do so. So you don't get to tell a person how to take what is happening to them.
it.
You
Right.
Yes,
don't
you
get to
can.
diminish
The
I
law
what
do.
do
is
feel.
happening to me and what I feel as it's happening to me. You don't get to
Right.
do that for me.
The
Now,
So
law
look,
what
I
does
want to
that
ask
for
you.
you.
Now, look, someone that I watch, he just started a show, and they're talking about what we're talking about. They asked this question, and this is the title of his show: Was Carmelo Anthony justified? Justified? Was Carmelo Anthony justified killing white teens, same as George Zimmerman was?
Right.
I'm BJ3 brought that up.
Right.
Yeah.
It must have been. They must have been listening to your show, and
I
then started
mean,
their
I
show.
don't know.
Don't be
That's a
I'm
scared.
just
coincidence
saying,
because it
man.
just
Like
popped up
it.
through my
It
feed that he going live with that title.
right.
Mm-mm.
It's a
Yeah,
matter of it's your like you said. It's a matter of your per, per, perception.
yeah.
Once you get to a certain point, once you break a certain boundary, then it's too late if I decide to react.
Here's the
And
thing.
go
I'm
ahead,
sorry. Go
tell
ahead.
me
I'm
the thing.
sorry. Go ahead. No,
No,
go
no,
ahead. Finish.
no,
My bad.
because
I'm
I
sorry.
ain't gonna
I
say
didn't mean to
nothing
cut
I
you
ain't
off.
already said. I ain't gonna say nothing I already said. It's your interpretation is this person is about to hurt me very
Mhm.
seriously or kill me, and you respond to that. We don't know what that kid was thinking. We don't know what he was when he looked up
See, but
in
he
the
told him. You
audience
see,
in
y'all
the
got to
room.
remember this too. DJ Shiny D and BJ3. He told him, "Touch me and see what find and see and
Find out what
find out."
happened.
So
And see what
Right.
happened.
that's almost
You
like a
see what-
premeditated situation.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
fight, every fight I have been in, I have said, gave the
See,
disclaimer at
but
the
every fight
beginning.
you've been in did
Right.
not lead to the
Back
death of
up,
someone.
Why would you
back up
grab
off
somebody?
me.
Why would you grab them and somebody to pull the knife out and say, "Touch me again and see what happened"? Why you
Right.
grabbing him?
Yeah, yeah.
You already see what the situation is. He is
Yeah.
there.
And the thing
He
about
right
it is,
there.
Joseph, you're
Look,
not
if Shani
questioning why.
D,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
See, but
if Shani pull her
y'all
pistol
gotta
out,
keep it real with yourselves though. We've all been grabbed or may have been touched, but
Yeah.
never resorted in a situation where someone lost their lives.
Because I didn't have a knife on me at the time. So what I'm saying to you, like, well, I did. It would have been one. I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, Joseph, you question why he had a knife on him. You don't
Right.
know if this kid takes the bus to school, if this kid has to go through a bad neighborhood, through a gang infested neighborhood. You don't know.
It's not.
That's what I'm saying. So let's not judge him. Let's let
or
God.
he in Texas, or a racist neighborhood. Let's keep it real. We
Oh,
talking
for
about
real.
where the butcher's from.
For sure.
they still burning crosses in Texas. Come
No,
on.
they not. No, they not.
Nah, I mean,
I got family all through Dallas. I'm in Dallas 3, 4
We ain't
times.
talking about just
And
Dallas, Texas. Texas is
I
South,
listen,
man.
stop. I'm
Don't
in
get it twisted.
Houston
Don't get
three
it
times
twisted.
a year. I'm in Houston 3 times a year. I mean, I was in Dallas. I used to be in Dallas every year for 4 years straight when my brother was down there as an engineer. And I ain't never experienced not one racist things. And I was in the hit
That's great.
Billy's.
That's
But
great
I
for
was
you, one black
that.
man.
That never
you
One
haven't.
happened.
black man.
No,
That's a
no, no.
beautiful
That's
story.
You
not what's
haven't.
going
well,
on
well,
That's
today.
well,
beautiful.
well,
I'm
well, you got
thankful
to
Let's
remember,
for that
you
see.
to
got to
happen
We
to
remember
got
you.
this, Joe. When the sun go
Y'all got
down, the sundown
smartphones.
states, those
I, and
things
I'm
They
exist.
sorry.
got
I've been out
sundown
there with the
states,
sun
man. Come on,
down.
this dude come on, man.
What I'm saying is, I don't believe. Listen, listen. Stop. We gotta be serious here. All right. You
So
cannot.
crosses were burning in Texas
eh,
in December 13th, 2023.
I
Okay.
don't know anything about that.
You
But
know.
listen,
Right.
yeah,
I'm telling you, I
but
was
we're
saying
not.
that and I don't know nothing about it.
But that's exactly the reason why the racist is a racist tension. And unfortunately for Carmelo Anthony, he's got an upbelly to go through. If I was the jury, he's convicted. I'm going to convict him.
Well,
Right.
let's
Yeah.
say you are
What,
Based
what,
never
on
called.
based on what I'm seeing right now, if I don't hear nothing, if I don't hear any facts changing based on what I'm hearing
Wait till
right
they
now,
start pulling out
he's going to
stuff.
prison.
well, look,
He's
I
going to
want
prison on my book.
everybody. Normally, I try to end the show with a solution to be able
I
to,
got a
for
solution.
those who may be listening to the show. And I'm gonna start with you, DJ Shiny D. Give the youth that may be listening, even some adults that may be listening, to be able to like if they're faced with this situation, you know, um, give them a situation on how you would handle this situation.
First of all, I say to not have Joseph on his jury because he don't stand a chance.
There's going to be a whole bunch of me on that jury. You better believe that.
Yeah, okay, but I would say like that was jokes, but on a serious side, I think that what we need to do is the conflict resolution is a big deal because we're not very social anymore. Our kids aren't as social as they used to be, and so for us, hanging out with somebody all the time, you get into a fight and y'all friends the next day. It's not really like that anymore.
Right.
Nah.
Uh, So what I would say is because what's so crazy, it's hard to find a solution because this was just so random and
Yeah,
just
and it's a hard pill to swallow. I feel for both
yeah, so it
sides
ain't like
too.
you could say put him, make sure you keep him busy, make sure, but I because he was busy. He was
Yeah,
on a sport. This is what kids are supposed to be doing.
right.
But I do blame any adults, anybody else that was around that could have stepped in and just de-escalated the situation. We all need to know de-escalation. You can't incite a riot. You can't incite something and then be a victim when there's a consequence for it. So that's all I'm saying. They were children. I don't think he should be tried as an adult. I don't. He
What
won't
you
That's
go
don't.
first
impossible.
degree.
No,
But
no, he will be tried as an adult. He just won't be able to face the death penalty. He will be tried
A
as
lot
an adult
of shit to not be an
Yeah.
attorney, to know the boy, a lot of shit, Joseph. You
because
don't
Right.
know.
I
Well,
read what the law says in Texas. I'm not going by what I think. This is what the law says. He will be tried
Okay.
as an adult.
right.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
See,
You're
but
right. Well, we
but
gonna
one thing that I did, like I said, that I did learn about the laws in Texas. Even if he is charged as an adult, he will not be charged with capital murder, so he won't face a death penalty, and he won't be charged with life without possibility of
yeah,
parole. So
because he's
that
not gonna
means
get first
so
degree.
that means
He's
he
not gonna
will get out. But BJ3, I want to ask you that same question. You know, um,
Okay.
uh, give the youth that may be watching this show, what you would have done or a better resolution to that situation. If someone would have grabbed you, in the eyes of the law.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say if somebody grabbed me, but what I am gonna say is if I was that age and I worked with youth and troubled youth for over 25 years. So I've given this speech multiple times. And it's like Joseph, he's right about a lot of things. And one
he
of
is.
the things that I agree with him on was that you gotta show some self control. So I'll start with one side, and you know, if somebody is in the area and you ask them to leave, and they pull out a weapon, at that point it's not that serious. You know what I'm saying? At that point, you can call authorities or somebody else to deal with it. But as far as you dealing with it at that point, it's no longer you don't want to deal with that no more. The other side is um, you know you know you're in the area you're not really supposed to be in. They ask you to leave. You know, just go ahead and tuck your tail and relocate, because your actions can your response can put you in a situation that you don't want to be in for the rest of your life. Like
Mhm.
Right. See, and I'm gonna say this, before I let Joseph in, and and listen, that's why I asked that question so I could get these words out of you guys. At the end of the day, you guys gave the response of responsible adults and what a adult would do. Originally, you guys gave the response of what a nigga would do in a situation like that. We would handle it like that. Most of us would do that. But in a situation like that, you really got to think, cautiously before you commit acts like that, because more than likely, he's going to be judged by not his peers, but by the person that he killed peers, and they're going to judge
right.
him, and they're going to be looking at it like did this warrant, for this white boy to lose his life?
But my thing is, if you're getting a group of 9 of your peers, shouldn't they be teenagers?
I mean,
No,
No,
well,
that's
well,
how it
that
works.
ain't how that works.
when they say
So
that,
what
you
I'm
know what they
saying
mean.
is,
They mean your race.
but that's what I
No,
mean.
not
But
necessarily. People
but
in
the
your
That ain't the
word,
I
race
mean
either.
that's how
right.
y'all
That
looking
ain't
at it,
race
but
either.
in all actuality, that's how it
yeah, I
goes.
know. But this is the trickery, because it should be his peers.
Yeah, it
You
should be.
you
It
know what I
should
mean?
be. I mean, but they ain't gonna have no teenagers up there, nothing like that. No high schoolers.
They
They're
need
gonna
Probably
young
have
gonna be
probably.
adults.
It's
young,
probably
young
gonna be 12 white women.
23
With a
year
couple of
olds,
men in
24
there.
year olds.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, all the way
Both
around.
sides of the
Yeah,
story.
in the
Everybody
same
loses.
way. So, and Joseph,
Everybody
I'm
knows
gonna
that.
I'm gonna let you answer. I'm gonna ask you that same question. For the youth that may be watching this, give them your opinion on, how that situation or how you would handle that situation.
I'm gonna tell you how, for me, when one of the things I teach my first of all, I always refer back to my son, police officer, and he lead by example. I had watched him deal with situations where he has to retreat. He was young and stuff in high school. But anyhow, what the things I teach my son is not just to not to think about or make decisions based on how they feel. You have to factor in two factors. One, the factor of are you really ready to handle that situation? But then
Mhm.
you have to also factor in the law. I teach my kids to say, hey, this is the law. If you do this, and this is what you should do. You have to factor in the human side of it, and then you got to factor in the law. And when you do that, 9 out of 10, they make good decisions. I cannot allow my kids to make decisions based on how they feel. How you
Right.
feel is going to get you locked up.
Yep.
And for the youth, if for any youth or anybody who needs help making decisions, think about think about would you still commit that act if you was given 5 to 10 more minutes later after the situation?
Seconds,
Would you give
seconds.
yourself 10 minutes? Or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, seconds. If you gave yourself another minute to think about it, will you still commit that act?
Hmm.
And if you
On both
still feel
sides.
like,
On both sides.
well, other
Yeah.
side dead, you ain't get a chance to think about that again.
But it would have been nice if he could have took a minute
Right,
to say,
right.
"Let me not put my
That's
hand."
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree
So
with you. Yeah.
he
But
could
you
have
think
avoided
about
that
it, you on both
situation.
sides.
I agree. And yeah, make good points where you're saying to keep your hands to yourself, and this will never happen. I will agree. But I'm pretty sure that teenager boy did not think that he was gonna get stabbed in his heart by just grabbing him.
Right.
And he probably didn't think he was gonna kill him either. You know what I
No,
mean? So,
no, I
um,
disagree because he had a knife in his bag. He was already ready for whatever could have happened. He was
Joseph, you're
ready.
gonna make
I
me mad.
felt like he
He
did that
If
on
he
he
was
he
purpose.
was on was he on that
if
I
he
wish
was
a nigga
ready,
would?
he
He
wouldn't have
told
to
him.
go in his
Yeah,
Did he
bag to
tell
do
him?
the
He just
night.
said
yeah,
I
If
wish
he
a
was
nigga
ready,
would. He was on the I wish
yeah,
a
if
nigga
he was
would
yeah.
ready,
day.
He
he
had
wouldn't
a
have had to
knife
go
on
to
him.
the
His
the
intent
knife
was
would have
go
been
to
right there
use it.
ready to go. The knife would
Hey,
have been right there ready to go.
but you know what
I
though?
think he was on I wish a nigga would
Yeah,
type
that
shit
type of
that
Look,
day
attitude.
when it went
look.
down.
This
Yeah,
on the real, when somebody goes to that drastic measures, they're scared.
They're
They're
scared.
scared.
no, you're
And
not.
you don't get to tell me how to protect myself if I'm scared.
They're scared.
Your
They're scared.
fear, again, your fear is your mental. You have to be able to this. You have to be able to control. You cannot use fear. Okay, I'm scared. I go outside and the guy look at me. He might ain't even be looking at me, but I thought he
I,
was.
I
I'm
No,
afraid. I'm
I
gonna
but
shoot
almost
him
you
want to
because
I
I'm
I almost
scared.
want to
feared
play
for
this
my
I almost
life.
want to play this song because this is what the
I
judge and the jury's
feared.
gonna be looking at like give a fuck about your feelings.
But
Your
I
fear
feared
don't change the
it
situation.
does
No,
because
that's it.
I feared for my life.
Yeah.
I
right.
Well,
feared
look.
for my safety.
Hey,
I
look.
No,
feared.
At the end
no,
of the
fear
day,
don't
it
change
was
the
great.
situation.
At the end of the day, you all had great answers. Look, I'm not disagreeing with DJ Shiny D and BJ3 was saying. You guys made great points. At the end of the day, he should have not put his hands on Carmelo Anthony. That would
Yeah,
have been avoided. You know what I mean? He was wrong for doing what
I
he
agree.
did. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get this message across to the youth. Situations like
Should
in
have
that
died for it?
situation,
No.
violence did not deserve for that man to lose his life. And at the end of the day,
I
that's
agree.
what I think Joseph is trying to get his point across, and what I'm trying to get across. I'm not disagreeing with what you guys saying, but more than
I
likely,
agree.
and we can come back and listen. And this is how we're going to prove this. We're going to come back and after this case is over with, and we're going to redo this show. And I'm more than likely, he's going to probably do some time. And I would love for both of you guys to come back on this show so we can discuss that.
Oh
But
yeah,
what
definitely
I'm
for it.
trying to reach is some of the youth that may be put in situations like this, going forward,
Yeah.
because there's going to be plenty more track meets, and shit like that that's going to be happening. You cannot handle situations like this, because you're going to be put in a situation like Carmelo Anthony, and you don't want to be judged by um someone
Nine.
else's peers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, hopefully this will be a lesson learned for those who's watching this, and be able to at the end of the day use conflict resolutions, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So I'm gonna end it off with this. DJ Shiny D. Let everybody know where they can reach you. Let everybody know what you got going on. And look, I need to get some damn shea
Yeah.
butter.
I
My
thought you
hands are
was on the
ashy.
usher board. I
Uh,
thought you was Mickey Mouse with them gloves on.
no, listen, I'm straight. When I get off of work, I come straight home and I do the show. That's for them goddamn gloves. But
I
look,
got you.
when
Got
I'm
you.
done, I'm about to take a shower and put on
Yeah,
some of that
yeah.
DJ Shiny D shea
All right.
butter, and I'll be clean. Y'all need to go and grab some, but let them know what you
I get
got
so.
going on and where they
Um,
can reach
can I just take one quick moment? You guys bear with me. I'll be very brief. The last show I did, we were talking, the last live we did, I was telling a story about a friend and, just having a couple cocktails and his name slipped as I was telling the story, right? And so I was so remorseful because with me saying his name, it really could have damaged my friendship. I was really remorseful. So he told me that the only way he will forgive me, he lying, he forgave me already, but he said the only way he will forgive me is if I come on here and tell a secret. Okay.
So he want
So
to do a show about you.
no, no, no. We're gonna do I'm about to tell this secret right now and then we're gonna say goodnight.
Oh, okay, well
So
go ahead. Oh, so he wanted you to come on the show and tell a secret
and
about
tell
yourself.
yes, because I tried to get him to come on the show and tell one of my secrets, but he was like, that's corny. So he's like, you just tell your own
All right,
secret.
well go
So,
ahead. We
all
listening.
right, so in 1998, me and my girl robbed a liquor store. So that's all I got. That's all I got.
Okay, there you go.
All right, cool. So we friends again. All right, but other than that, I just got shea butter and work, and that's it. I got a 3-day weekend I'm excited about. and looking for that
Man,
420 next
Yeah, I'm
weekend.
glad about that
420.
too.
me too.
And after 420, I'm stopping smoking weed. So I'm gonna live this weekend. Yeah, I'm done.
No more
Yeah,
weed.
no more. I'm not gonna
You
smoke it.
moving back to Africa?
I'll do a tea or something, but I won't. I
There
won't
you
smoke
go.
out.
Well, ain't nothing wrong with that. It's all about change, and just doing
Yeah,
whatever is best for you and yourself. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so
yeah.
congratulations on your new journey. Hopefully, you be able to stick with it, and I think you will be able to.
Hmm.
Don't
BJ3,
even wear green on the show.
okay,
Okay.
BJ3, let everybody know where they can reach you and what you got going on.
I'm into changing lives, man. I'm making money work for you. Anything when it comes to finances, retirement accounts, 401ks, Roths, all that. Hit me at 773-398-5658.
And
Okay,
and
gotcha.
before I move on to Joe, definitely get with BJ3, because we hear stories all throughout the country. I just did a show with four young ladies who lost their lives in the accident where they were drinking and driving. And
Hmm.
all of them had to have GoFundMe, accounts. We have to be responsible for our own lives. We have to go out and get insurance. And be responsible. Because who wants to? Is this the new trend? When we die, we go out and have GoFundMe's. You know what I mean? So let's be a little bit more responsible while we're alive and planning for, our deaths. So like I said, BJ3, is a definitely a professional. Get with him. Definitely get with him, and he'll be able to explain to you, a little bit more better than what I can. Joseph, let everybody know where they can reach you, and let everybody know what you got going on.
Well, for me, it's the same thing I always say. I got a Facebook. Reach me on Facebook, Instagram, Joseph knows. Same with both pages. So just reach out to me. JoJo knows.
There we go. There we
Joseph,
go.
I have fun with you, Joseph.
Huh?
I like arguing and debating with you. Not arguing, but debating and negating. You're
Yeah.
fun. All
That's what
right.
it's about. That's what it's
Yeah,
about.
yeah, definitely. All right. Y'all challenge me. I get to hear it.
Yeah, you
And of course,
challenged me too. You challenged me too. I
yeah.
appreciate
So I hope this is not the last time we do this.
Well, either you challenge me or you piss me way off, but at least
I
we
think I
you
do.
know,
I think it's both for a lot of people. I hear this a lot.
Well, look, before we end it, we're gonna have DJ Sonny D come on here and tell us a real story,
I know
so
how.
we can even the score.
All right, whatever. Yeah, I need to quit it.
Well, look, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming on the show discussing this topic, because it definitely was a needed conversation, because this is the conversation that has the country divided, and we've already been divided, amongst each other,
Hmm.
since we've been together, so this just been another situation where it's divided us even more, so I just wanted to have this conversation to be able to discuss this topic, with the youth coming up, to be able to have some type of
Seriously.
conflict resolution, so we cannot be able to so we can stop handling arguments or confrontations with someone losing their life. So
No
I don't
doubt.
have anything else to add. If you guys have anything else to add, go ahead. If not, we're going to go ahead and close out.
No.
That's it for
I
me.
think youth should know the law, and I think they should know the
Hmm.
law at an early age. I think everybody in the house needs therapy. I do at
Yeah,
some
I agree with
point,
that.
No, I
you know,
agree
just
100%.
to
You're right.
maintain.
Yeah.
And just to maintain and how to go forward, because however old he is, that's the first time he's ever been that age, so he don't know. And so I'm not saying that should be, something to forgive everything, but I am saying it should be taken into consideration, and that's all I'm saying.
No, for sure. And
Hmm.
listen, and we may be surprised, Joseph, because me and you, for the most part, are saying that, it's a clear-cut case, that he's going to do some prison time. But we could be wrong when we come, because we're going to come back and do this show. It's going to be all four of us, and hopefully a few other more people on the panel. But we're going to come back and
Yeah.
discuss this same topic, going forward after this trial is over with. It's probably going to be it may be a long trial, but we're definitely going to discuss this.
Yeah, it
So,
might
but
be long.
Yeah, so but it's been a like I said, a needed conversation, and I think all of you guys made great points, and I think for those who's been watching the show, they'll be able to take this, and be able to handle a situation like that, with a little bit more conflict resolution, because really at the end of the day, that's what that situation was about, on both sides, not just with Carmelo Anthony. It started with, with I forget his name, but with the white boy. So look, it's been another one. It's your
Austin
boy
Metcalf.
Dame D, and we
Or
are out.
Metcalf. Let's
We
say
Peace.
his
out.
name. Peace.
Peace.